Hey guys, my name's Wes, and you're watching Wes Nichols TV, and today I'm reviewing Blair Witch. Blair Witch is a 2016 horror film starring Corbin, Reid, James McCune, Brandon Scott, and Callie Hernandez. It is directed by Adam Wingard and is a sequel to the 1999 horror classic, The Blair Witch Project. Now, I normally start off all my reviews with my positives, but in this particular review, I'm going to start with my negatives. First and foremost being, it feels way too polished. From the actors who were cast to the way it was shot. First off, the actors. They all looked like they were Hollywood actors. They looked like it was a casting call. No matter how secret your casting call was, it looks like you casted, potential up-and-coming actors. Down to me recognizing one from a TV series. This should have been, nobody I recognized at all, ever. They should have been all first-role people. Kids maybe with talent, maybe not with talent. Because sometimes a terrible performance is what helps you lend to believe, oh, this is real-life, people who aren't really actors. But that took me out of the film. That's a negative. Adam Wingard, you are an incredible director. I will never take that away from you. The Guest is a phenomenal movie. Your Next is my favorite horror film of that year, or one of my favorite horror films of that year. It's a great little slasher. But this movie, it felt like a great director filmed it. And not in that they accomplished their goal of making it feel like, a real-life event, but in that there are shots in this movie that are really well done. There are, certain scenes that are formed certain ways that are really well done. And that's great. You made a budget of around $9 million, stretched to look like a budget of about $15 million. But in this movie, you should have done the opposite. You should have been rough around the edges. You should have made this movie look like it was made for $1 million tops, because it felt super polished. There were some beautiful shots that never should have been in there. You did make some good use of some different types of found footage, and the drone was a cool idea, but at the end of the day, it took me out of the film, and I wanted to feel like I was watching a sequel to The Blair Witch Project. I didn't want to feel like I was watching a sequel to Book of Shadows, Blair Witch Project Part 2, which is actually a terrible film, you really look at it, but it felt too polished. On top of that, the characters, none were bad. I didn't hate any of the characters in the movie. There was one was kind of a dick, but I didn't hate anybody. But at the same time, I didn't love anybody either in this film. I need to get behind. You need to have your audience connect to your characters so that when they're in danger, I want to see them survive. I want to see when they are afraid for their lives that I'm afraid for them too. And that didn't happen in this movie. Had that happened, a lot of the earlier scares and earlier scenes of danger would have had a lot greater of an effect versus what we got in certain scenes. Which leads to my next, negative. The first two-thirds of this movie really are not all that great. Yes, they do give you that somewhat Blair Witch Project feel, in that there's not a whole lot happening, but there are scenes where you can tell they're trying to make, this is a scary scene that's setting up a beat towards what's happening and what's to come, but it's not effective at all. It does create an air of mystery to what they're doing as far as a grand scale, but it's not a lot effective. But that's basically my last real negative. My positives basically begin and end with the third act. I loved this third act. If the movie had 2/3 of what this third act was, this is a 9 out of 10 review. I loved this movie. It's just not, though. The third act is incredibly effective. You have 3 or 4 different great sequences of genuinely scary, terrifying stuff. It starts off with a bang. No spoilers, but I will say that there's one of the doll things that are in trees involved that just comes out, just shock you out of nowhere. You have no idea this is about to happen, and then it happens, and you're just like, what? And then they use shaky camera for the first time in a while that I was super yes, shaky camera, because it made me feel like I was watching the first Blair Witch Project again, and it was effective in this part. You follow that up with actually feeling like the Blair Witch Project because there's darkness, you can't see what's going on, you're hearing things, what's happening, I don't know. I'm becoming more, my adrenaline's kicking up, and my heart's racing a little bit more, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, I'm literally being vocal, I'm like, what the hell was that? What? And it just keeps ramping up. Finally, we're seeing certain things, there are events happening, people are separated, oh my gosh, things are happening now, and it just kept amping up. The scene in the trailer where she's in a hole, an incredibly effective scene, probably the most memorable scene in the entire movie. I noticed that my body was actually, for one scene, felt like I was the character. I was trying to get out of this hole. I was incredibly afraid in this scene. I felt like it was harder to breathe. They did what they wanted to do. They manipulated me to be completely, to whatever they wanted to do in this film. There are scenes with, that felt very reminiscent to the first film in that you're seeing, very similar imagery. And you're finally getting, kind of a conclusion. Are we going to see Heather again? And I really enjoyed that whole segment. And then, on top of that, they added to the mythology of the Blair Witch. I love mythology of the Blair Witch Project. I thought that in the movie, the little bit they give you, it's really interesting. I loved that. And then you get the Sci-Fi Channel original little thing that aired, the Burkittsville 7 or Curse of the Blair Witch. We could talk about Rustin Parr. They talk about that. And as a hardcore Blair Witch Project fan that just loves everything Blair Witch, that had me. I mean, that's how you tug on the heartstrings of true fans. And they certainly did. You get that stuff. You get an incredibly terrifying third act. You get a twist that I did actually call about 10, 15 minutes before it happened. I'm like, wait a minute, is this what I think is going to happen? And it totally did. And you have the biggest mystery of all, which I'm not going to talk about too heavily because it's a spoiler-free review. I think if this makes money and they're doing more sequels, which, let's face it, they probably will, they have an option, because I have a theory about what's actually going on in these woods, and it's not exactly what we've been led to believe throughout the first two films and the first half of this film. But that's just a theory. But overall, I did enjoy this film. Yes, it's too polished. Just the actors were way too well-known or well too Hollywoodized. It looked like a Hollywood film. Those are all big negatives in my eyes. But the third act is terrifying, and that's really what I want to go see a scary movie for. It has nods to the original Blair Witch. It feels somewhat like a Blair Witch movie, and that makes me happy. And that's why I'm going to give this movie a upper 6, like a 6.75, 7 out of 10. There are some big issues with it, yes, but I really did enjoy it and was really afraid towards the last third of this movie. But that's just my opinion. I want to know yours. What did you think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, click like button over here. Click subscribe right over here to get more of my reviews. Like my review for Don't Breathe right over there. You can follow me on Twitter at WesNichols14. You can share me on social media anywhere you'd like. You can hear my dog, Rocco. He's out there making noise with his collar. Thanks for watching. My name is Wes. You're watching West Coast TV. Have a great night. Bye.